Mr. Speaker, the Finance Minister's report card is in. Canadians have the highest consumer debt in the G7. Per capita GDP has fallen for 6 consecutive quarters, and Canadians now make $30,000 less than their American counterparts. This is a made-in-Canada per capita GDP recession. And in the face of global trade and economic uncertainty, the Finance Minister's plan increased taxes on energy, on entrepreneurs, farmers, and physicians. So will this Finance Minister reverse her tax increases so Canadians can keep their jobs and investments at home?
Yeah. Before we get absorbed by America.
Minister for Finance and Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives seem to have an inferiority complex vis-a-vis the United States. But on this side of the House, we are proud to be Canadian. We are proud that the inflation rate in Canada has been within the Bank of Canada's target range all year. We're proud that we have the lowest debt and deficit in the G7, far lower than the United States. And we are proud of our universal single-payer healthcare system, which means Canadians live 4 years longer than our friends south of the border. We're proud to be Canadian. They should be too.
Yes, we are.
Well, we used to be a lot
The Honourable Member
prouder.
Simcoe North.
Mr. Speaker, every day you turn around, it's another scandal coming from this government. We're proud to be Canadian, and we're going to fix it after the next election. But since the Finance Minister doesn't like answering the complex question, let's start with an easy one. Last year, she made a commitment that the deficit would be no greater than $40.1 billion. Mr. Speaker, this goes exactly to the Finance Minister's credibility. Will she confirm that last year's deficit was less than $40.1 billion, or has she broken yet another deficit promise?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. One moment, please. The Honourable Member from York Simcoe, please.
Uh-oh.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, if the Conservatives are
Mr. Speaker.
on supporting Canadians, as they like to claim every single day in this House, I have a great idea for them. Why don't we together give Canadians a tax break for the holidays? That's right. Why don't we lift the GST on prepared foods so a working mom can pick up a rotisserie chicken on the way home, make it easier for parents to buy toys for their kids for Christmas? If the Conservatives were honest, true to their proposed ideals, they would be supporting us in this measure.
Yeah, if the Conservatives... Dude, you are just a crooked piece of garbage, aren't you?
Mr. Speaker, the holidays are coming right up. But because of inflation, Quebecers are struggling. 25
Don't worry, we get
Quebec won't be able to
60
spend
days and no
as much over the
GST.
holidays,
It's okay.
which is a sign
solved.
that the food inflation we've experienced over the last 9 years is still causing problems. And the Bloc Québécois is complicit in this government's inflationary spending. It has also betrayed Quebecers by preventing an election this fall. Everyone wants to know, when will we finally have an election? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, it would seem that the member across the way is not looking at our economic data, because what the numbers show is
Why does it look like she just woke up out of bed or something?
has been within the Bank of Canada's target range for 10 months. And because of that success, the benchmark rate has already decreased 4 times. But we do agree that we need to support Quebecers over the holidays, and that is why we will be giving them a break on the GST. I hope the Conservatives will support us in that.
No chance.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the best gifts that Liberal Santa Claus and the Bloc Québécois elves have managed to offer Canadians for Christmas are inflationary policies. Canadians are struggling. They will spend less during the most wonderful time of the year because of this Liberal government's incompetence.
No.
The Bloc Liberal coalition is not a gift to anyone, Mr. Speaker. When will Canadians no longer need to make a wish list? When will they be able to receive the greatest gift of all, a Conservative government?
Hey, shout out to the translator, man, for matching the enthusiasm.
The Honourable Deputy
That's cool.
Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker.
Speaker. Once again, This question is incoherent and it doesn't make sense when it comes to the economy. I am happy, though, to hear Conservatives talking about inflation because we have good news for Canadians. The good news is that for 10 months now, inflation in Canada has been within the Bank of Canada's target range. That is why we can afford to give Canadians a real Christmas present. A tax holiday, the GST break. The Conservatives should help us do so.
It's 60 days, dude. Calm down.
The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, according to an investigation by the Ontario Coroner's Office, an additional 220 deaths occurred at an Ontario residential schools, more than 50% higher than previously believed. This confirmed what we already have known. The Indian residential school system was a genocidal project, yet this government has not acted to protect survivors from rising residential school denialism, undermining truth and justice. So will the Liberals support my bill to include in the criminal code the protection of survivors from denialists inciting hate?
No, you can't criminalize speech like that. That's insane. You're literally fucking off your rocker for thinking that.
Mr. Speaker, I think the more we find out about the residential schools, the more Canadians realize the horrific tragedies that occurred.
What is this?
As a nephew of multiple aunts who went to the residential school, we continue to focus on support. We continue to focus on healing. That's why we have a National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, for us to continue to have these discussions, for us to open Canadians' mind to the experience of many First Nations who went to the residential schools, the Métis, Inuit, but also their descendants. And Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to be focused on that support for Canadians.
You can't educate a population by criminalizing the opposing opinion. It's going to have opposite effects.
Speaker, today there are nearly 1 million Canadians under the age of 29 who are neither employed nor engaged in training. Wow. We haven't seen a youth unemployment crisis this severe since the Conservatives were in power. Yeah. According to Deloitte, this will cost our economy $18 billion over the next decade. Will the Liberals listen to New Democrats and set up a youth climate corps so young Canadians can gain the skills and experience they need while protecting our environment?
The Honourable Minister for Women and Gender Equality.
Mr. Speaker, it has been a tenet of our government to support...
Why is they them wearing a mask right there?
In so many ways. There are 70,000 young people, Mr. Speaker, that have benefited from Canada's summer jobs. And I'll tell you, the Auditor General confirmed this just this week, Mr. Speaker, that those young people that attend CSJ actually do better in the workforce after having done so. We have always supported young people and will continue to do so. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, the federal government has introduced a GST tax break that will put money directly into the pockets of Canadians, especially for families who need it the most. In my constituency of Davenport, every penny counts, and a temporary GST tax break for the holiday season and early New Year is very welcome. My question to the minister is simple. Can she explain why the Conservative leader and his party voted against this tax break, especially when they claim to be champions of tax cuts and affordability?
Very good.
Come on now. Oh, he muted it. Come on now. Let's get on with the show. What are we doing here? Holy crap. The hell's going on? You kidding me? Put some W's down in the chat if you think I should be the House Speaker. I'll be there with shorts and sandals and a cigar in my mouth.
I'm going to ask the Honourable Member from Davenport to please repeat the question, because I did not catch the end of the question, which the Honourable Member from Davenport.
Okay, twice.
Mr. Speaker, the federal government has introduced a GST tax break that will put money directly into the pockets of Canadians, especially for families who need it most. In my constituency of Davenport, every penny counts, and a temporary GST tax break for the holiday season and early New Year is very welcome. My question to the minister is simple. Can she explain why the Conservative leader and his party voted against this tax break, especially when they claim to be champions of tax cuts and affordability?
Good question.
Oh my goodness, man. Come on.
Sorry, say that again?
I would never do that. As House Speaker, as future House Speaker of Canada, I would never do that. Vote for me.
Although the preamble of the question dealt with a government initiative, the question itself was asking the government to comment on the, in terms of, colleagues, I'll have more to say about this.
Nobody respects him.
Of question period, in terms of question, but I will mention to the honourable member from Davenport that unfortunately that question does not deal with the administration of government.
Come on, what is this? Bro, you suck. Yeah, he did the gang sign to mute the mic. He's a gangbanger. I do not consent for our House Speaker to be a gangbanger. Look at that. What is this? He's doing hand signs, bro.
Considered out of order, and I will be moving on to the next question.
Who does that?
Order, please. The honourable.
We've had border disorder since 2017. Hundreds of thousands of people crossed the border. And now we have 500,000 people, irregular migrants in our country, in addition to people who may stay here after receiving a temporary visa. The Prime Minister has lost control of immigration on the border. What is his plan to fix this? The Honourable Minister of Citizenship and Immigration. You can't make this up, Mr. Speaker. In May, we proposed asylum reforms. We know we need them. And what did the Conservatives do? Nothing.
I can't wait for Mark Miller to be out of a job.
Slogans. They try to pretend they're tough, but actually, when the chips are down, they don't do anything. They are completely useless. The Honourable Member for Charles-Saint-Charles. The first thing that we have done since 2017 is that we criticized this Prime Minister's stunt that made no sense and that led to more immigration problems. And of course, there's limits to what we can do from here, but when we're on the other side, we'll fix the problem. But there's meanwhile a problem at the border. Weapons trafficking, human trafficking, all sorts of major issues. These human traffickers are being paid millions of dollars to help people cross the border, which is creating even more disorder. Does the Prime Minister have a real plan, or should we have an election and we will show that we have a real plan?
100% we should have an election.
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, it is completely irresponsible for the Conservatives to claim that we could fix this problem by adding to the existing level of misinformation about our border security. I would ask our colleague to be more responsible before repeating slogans that were probably handed down by the leader's office, because this is not in the interest of Canadians or the Canadian economy. What's in our interest is to work with the Americans, support our police services and our American law enforcement partners in order to have a safe border, as it is now. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, I would like to start by offering the Bloc Québécois solidarity to the workers who are losing their jobs at Lion Electrique. We are at the 11th hour for this important Quebec company in the electric transportation sector. Ottawa needs to do something. The company believed the Prime Minister when they said that they would be investing billions of dollars in transit electrification in Canada. The company invested a great deal to be ready, but the zero-emission transit plan never delivered. Will the government finally do something about this and actually meet its commitments? The Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Oh,
Mr.
frig.
Speaker.
The woman translator has a deeper voice than this
Everyone
guy.
in this House cares about the workers at companies like this, and we know that Lion Electrique is a real flagship company in Quebec. It is an important part of the sector of electric transit, and we have been working closely with them. Thanks to these plans, hundreds of electric buses will be manufactured, and we will continue to work with Lion Electrique and the government of Quebec. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, the Rassemblement pour la laïcité is now adding its voice to the government of Quebec's position. They are both asking for the religious exemption in the criminal code to be abolished. The exemption that makes it possible to engage in hate speech with impunity. The Liberals keep saying that they're going to do the best thing that they can for Canadians. Well, how convenient. The Bloc Québécois has proffered Bill C-373, which will do exactly that, and it is supported by 66% of Canadians and 75% of Quebecers. So will the government finally commit to supporting our bill? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety and Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to thank our colleague for raising an issue that we all care about. I'd say there's a fair level of consensus here. We all have the right and responsibility to do what we can to promote solidarity and coexistence in a country where diversity is one of our core values and strengths. In this wonderful country that we've had for a long time already, and we are constantly working closely with the government of Quebec to promote that. Mr. Speaker, I don't think that was an answer to my question. I might have to go back and check. Mr. Speaker, listen, hate speech is supposed to be a criminal offense, period. Either you believe that or you don't. So Quebec is asking for this religious exception in Section 319 of the Criminal Code protecting hate speech to be repealed. Great. The Bloc Québécois has created Bill C-373 to do exactly that. It's the only bill that is going to do that. And this is a clear principle that deserves clear support. Will the government finally support the Bloc Québécois in amending Section 319 of the Criminal Code and getting rid of the religious exemption? The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General. I completely agree with what the Bloc Québécois is proposing. Given that there is such a serious situation in Canada, the increase in hate and hate speech throughout Canada, in Quebec and elsewhere. So if we could just manage to move forward on this bill, we need the help of the Bloc Québécois to end the filibuster in this House so we can actually talk about that. We also have a Bill C-63 that would also touch upon the same sections of the criminal code as the Bloc Québécois bill. So we're simply asking the Bloc Québécois to work with us to fight hate.